yeah, this is going to be a thing. I guess technically we're talking about anime. Technically. So I hope people are able to enjoy this. It's going to be something. I don't actually know what, but it's definitely going to be something. So, Doku, I believe you have an opinion, like you ever do that. I mean, you? An opinion? No, never.
I never have opinions. I'm too apathetic to commit apathy.
This is true. I mean, you used to be indecisive, but now you're just not sure of it at all, are you?
I am now Doku Pool.
Ouchie. Okay. So, I'm just gonna say it. Nancy Pelosi says what? I mean, I don't actually know what to say here. She is. I don't know how much you know. Okay, I can only do things I've heard. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I don't think I am. She's thinking of bringing the FBI in on this. For gosh sake.
Yeah, we got to do the family-friendly 5 minutes to appease the YouTube gods.
Hey, Mazza. Yep, carry on.
But I don't know if it's the FBI or if she wants to do like an internal investigation, but I do know that she wants an investigation over a really poorly done meme using an anime intro that's like, how old is the first season of Attack on Titan? Isn't that like a decade old now?
Something stupid like that, yeah. And by the way, I heard that she actually wants the FBI themselves to get involved.
It wouldn't surprise me. I'm kind of like you on this one. I don't really know where to actually begin.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll just start by stating the obvious. This is so insanely absurd and hypocritical. Like
Yeah.
it's not just clearly a meme. It's a bad meme. It's a meme using an anime that's old as dirt at this point in time. I mean, we're on the final season of the show. The manga's already done. And you're freaking out like, "Oh, it's trying to instigate violence." Are you joking? Are you serious?
I just a tiny thing. I mean, I guess nowadays it probably completely unimportant. No one cares about it. But I thought you guys were the land of the free. I thought free speech was a thing for you guys. Did you hear about this ever? Because I don't think it exists anymore.
I mean, we like to think we are, but so I guess I'll touch on one of the many things that just makes me shake my head about this because, good lord, Clown World intensifies by the day.
Yeah. The
So
Harlequins are flying, dude. Okay? The Harlequins are flying.
it's true. But bear in mind, so these are the same people who freak out about wait, well, are we past the family friendly 5 minutes yet?
No, we got one more minute, literally.
So okay,
play nice.
so they applauded the whole Kathy Griffin stunt and everything, like, oh, it's so brave and criticism and free speech and all this and that. But then they freak out over an anime meme. Like, this is not like we even had a prop. They just superimposed people's faces over a freaking anime intro. Like, this is what you guys are freaking out about? Are you serious?
Yeah. I don't know, dude.
I know you have double standards, and that's the only standard, but this is the hill of your choosing? Like, really? Superimposed, like, I could do this on Photoshop in like 2 minutes. Like, this is what you're so offended about? Like, they need to ban him off Twitter. He's inciting violence. But the fake head with the ketchup and missing
Well,
that
fuck
drop
this
of
shit.
time.
We've gone past 5 minutes.
Oh,
All
there we
yours.
fucking go. So yeah, you fucking assholes are over here freaking out about the goddamn anime fucking meme, which looks like a fucking fifth grader could have put it together, and you're like, oh, it needs to be investigated for inciting violence. Meanwhile, you have Kathy fucking Griffin over here with an actual fucking prop of Donald Trump's severed head holding it up like she's some fucking jihadist. And they're like, oh, oh yes, look at her. She's so brave. Oh, it's just comedy. It's free speech. Oh, wow. Really? I know the internet has caused people to have fucking short-term memories, but do you really think our memory is this short-term? You're freaking out over a fucking anime meme. Are you fucking serious? Hey, and you're contemplating wasting taxpayers' money because they're trying to incite violence on the floor of the Senate. Sit the fuck back down. God damn. Hey,
Yeah.
and these are the same fucking people. Let's go, Brandon, is an incitement to violence, and by saying it, it might mean you're a terrorist. You're the same fucking assholes who were saying fuck Donald Trump and also applauded the fucking Kathy Griffin thing and God knows whatever else. But no, the fucking anime meme and let's go, Brandon, and fucking teachers being concerned about their fucking kids means, oh my God, they're domestic terrorists. Like, at this point in time, no wonder your fucking approval rating is so abysmal. Like, seriously. Are you stupid? Do you want to self-implode? Are you trying to self-destruct? Did you hit the fucking big red button yourself? Or do you lack that degree of self-awareness? Because I guarantee you the vast majority of people look at this shit and go, what the fuck? Like, it's not even that funny of a meme.
No.
It's just, it's a stupid fucking meme. If it weren't for the fucking outrage over it, it wouldn't be funny at all. It'd be kind of, maybe not cringy, but it's like, all right, well, at least you tried, I guess. But
yeah,
they think it's the fucking worst thing to happen since fucking, I don't know, Chernobyl or freaking Mile Island or what the fuck ever. Like, they're acting like the freaking country's imploding, but I don't know. Maybe under their fucking rulership, the country actually is imploding because now the Democrats are like, oh, there might be a civil war. There's people talking about seceding. Yeah, it's probably because of your bullshit politics and your lack of fucking self-awareness because you fucking freak out and want to weaponize the FBI over a fucking anime meme.
Yes.
Good Lord.
Did you just, I know this is a bit of a side thing, but I'm just going to do it because I can. Did you hear exactly how loved Camel Toe Harris is, by the way?
Oh, yeah. Isn't her approval rating like 28% or some shit?
28%.
She's like the second lowest approval rating of any VP in history.
I'm going to get blunt, but I think I actually have craps that have a higher approval rating. And stink less.
Probably.
Let's be fair. Just 20. I mean, seriously, dude, 28%, that has got to be a record.
Again, and I'm not joking when I say she is the second lowest approval rating of any vice president in U.S. history.
I'm going to. Who's the lowest?
I don't remember who the lowest was, but I believe it was under either Nixon or LBJ. One of the two.
Oh, wow. Okay.
If I remember correctly, so don't quote me on that one, but I'm confident enough to say I think that's the administration.
Yeah, but dude,
yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Anyway, sorry, I just wanted to point out it was something I'd seen. I did want to ask about it. So, yeah, I mean, memes are bad now. Okay, just.
I know.
No, we've gone past the 5 minutes. I don't care now. Yes, dude. Prison gang rape has a higher approval rating than Joe and Kamala. You are not wrong. And in all fairness, if she gets in, you know that prison gang rape is just going to get worse because what she's going to do to your country. Oh, it's going to be bad. And you know it.
Yeah, I was talking to some people about this earlier. I guess this is kind of a bit of a segue.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a weird way, this is a good thing in the same sense that prior to the 2016 election, when the primaries were going on, nobody thought Donald Trump was going to actually get elected. They would literally, when somebody would bring up the notion that that was even possible, they would just get laughed at and mocked.
Yeah.
And then it happened, and then the establishment lost their shit, and
they did.
They freaked out. I mean, they went crazy because, in the words of Hillary Clinton, if that fucker gets elected, we're all going to hang. Because they know they're fucked. They know they're corrupt. They know they're fucking criminals. They know all of this. You don't need me to tell it to you. Like, it all takes a whopping 5 minutes to go look at, shut off Fox News, shut off CNN, shut off MSNBC, don't read the New York Times. Just take 5 minutes and do your own research and look at some of the shit these people have done, not just this year, not just the year before, but for the past several decades. It's pretty damn obvious these people are fucking crooks. They're criminals. We haven't had a legitimate administration since God knows when. We just haven't. And it doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat. I hate to break it to you. The establishment has been in control for a long fucking time. And it's not a legitimate and it's not a legitimate government because they don't govern based on representation. They govern for their own self-interests. They're not legitimate.
Now, I saw something earlier, okay? Apparently, your illustrious potato-in-chief came up with this glorious idea. You may know more about this than me, so I'm just going to give you what little I know is. He came up with a brilliant idea. The courts turned around and said, nah, mate. And he went, oh, ignore them and do it anyway. Something to do with the virus mandate.
Oh,
you know about this?
So because we have certain restrictions on government in this country, they're not allowed to pass certain laws because it's overstepping their bounds. It's not within their purview. They don't have the power to do certain things. So instead, they either do it through executive order, which just gets shot down by the courts, which then they ignore the court ruling and do it a second time anyways because they're not going to get thrown in jail over it, I guess. So why the fuck not? Which, again, our judicial system is probably the most corrupt. I know people like to talk about the FBI and the executive and legislative branch. And the first place we need to clean house is the fucking judicial system because these people should all be in fucking jail right now. You don't just ignore a court order, admit that you know it's technically illegal and it's unconstitutional, and then turn around and do it anyways. The only reason they can do it is because I know they're not going to go to fucking jail for it. They're not going to have any repercussions. They're not going to have any consequences. So they'll sit there and rule by fiat, knowing what they're doing is completely fucking illegal. And then when it finally does get shut down by the courts, they in turn turn around. It's kind of a weird way. I shouldn't have put it that way. In turn, they go to the to third parties, the free market, and they use intimidation, coercion to get the free market, businesses, OSHA, to implement these policies because legally we can't do it, but we can force the free market to do it. So they're basically sidestepping their constitutional restrictions and again, ruling by fiat, which for all the fucking idiots out there still thinking, oh, the right wings are a bunch of fascists. Well, you have the left literally engaged in Mussolini-style fascism right now. They are using political and government power to influence the free market to enact government policy. That is definition textbook fucking Mussolini fascism.
So about your country having this three groups at the top that are there to stop the three groups at the top from doing anything stupid. Now, isn't that the president, the House, and the judiciary? Am I correct here?
So we have the executive branch, which would be the president, the vice president. We have the legislative, which is the House and the Senate. And then we have the judicial, which is the Supreme Court and all the courts underneath it.
Okay, so you've got the idiot in charge, the people that are really in charge, and the people that get ignored. Gotcha. Okay, just checking.
Yeah, and technically we're supposed to have another balance of power between the federal government and the states. That's just the balance of power in the federal government. The state should have, for any rights that are not reserved to the state or granted to the federal government, are reserved to the states or the people. So right now we have the federal government basically circumventing not only state rights, but also individual rights by coercing the free market to do things that they shouldn't be allowed to do to begin with anyways, because there's a lot of other regulations that are being violated right now, including OSHA's violating them. The big one would be HIPAA. Like, have you been vaccinated yet? Do you have your AIDS card? Have you ever had gay sex? Have you ever stuck your dick up somebody's butt? Do you have herpes? And I'm going to need to see a card for that. The same argument applies. The same argument applies. If this is a rabbit hole we want to go down, no pun intended, I'm going to need to see your AIDS card. I'm going to need to see your herpes card. I'm going to need to see your flu shot card. I'm going to need to know if, again, it's a massive violation of individual rights.
If I may, I'm about to possibly blow your mind if you don't know about this, and if you don't, there is likely to be a rant, everyone, and you can all look at Doku for this one. Trust me. If you don't know about this, you're going to lose your living
let
shit.
Me smoke.
You, mate, go for a whiskey. No, I'm not joking. Yes. Right. Apparently, there's a place called Fairfax County that's fairly near you. You don't need to go into details, but apparently it's fairly near you. And they asked some questions of a bunch of, I almost feel bad saying this, but 12-year-old kids. Okay, 12. Okay, it's very important, this. Shall I tell you what they asked them?
For the record, I shouldn't be smoking because I might or might not potentially have bacterial pneumonia, but I don't give a fuck because if I die, then it's just a faster ticket off a fucking clown world. So,
yes, and
go for it.
After what I tell you, you're probably going to want to just die. Okay. Again, I'm going to remind you just one last time: 12-year-old children. Have you got that part? That's actually probably the most important thing.
The sad thing is, this might not surprise me.
Probably won't. That's disturbing. Okay, first question. Have you ever had sexual intercourse? How many times have you had sexual intercourse? Have you had sexual intercourse in the past few months? Have you ever had oral sex? Any of those want you to start screaming yet? It's going to go downhill, though.
I'm going to reserve my commentary until the information has been fully presented and I drink a beer.
Good choice. Then the questions are, have you ever been violently attacked by a parent? Do you get to make decisions at home? Sorry, no, let me reword that. Are you involved in any of the decisions in your home? Have your parents ever been violent to you or each other? What was it? That. There was something I can't remember, unfortunately, and then they started asking about drugs. Hard drugs. I mean, no.
Like heroin.
When, if at all, have you ever taken heroin or cocaine? Please provide details. Now you can go for it, mate, because, yeah.
So, I'm going to take a sip of my beer. Don't mind the dead air real quick as I collect my thoughts. Trust me, the wait will be worth it.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
So, where do I begin? For any of those who have not seen Jujutsu Kaisen, I do have the I forget the name of the guy with the blindfold, but the fingers together in front of my face, just looking down. Where do I begin?
I'm going to guess you didn't hear about this then.
No, I did not.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, this wasn't a Babylon B or anything like that. I want that stated. This was an actual report on this sort of thing. So, yeah, it's not a joke. Enjoy.
Oh, and the character's name is Goju. I just remembered it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with the devil's advocate approach.
Mm-hmm. This would
I
be good.
can understand to some degree why you would maybe be concerned about child abuse if your kid had track marks or exhibited signs of being high or had some odd behavior. Maybe you take them aside and say, is there anything you want to talk to us about? It I guess I can see that perspective. Now that's where all the good news ends, and this is where I crush this beer that I just opened a few seconds ago, and and the fun will begin. So, for as much as the oh, we need to protect the children crowd might say, well, if their kids are doing drugs or if they're in an abusive household or and they're engaged in inappropriate behavior, then we should know about it because we got to protect the kids. Think of the children. I
Won't
can
somebody think of the children? Sorry, carry on.
I could see where the pearl clutchers would come in and make that argument, and to some degree, they have an argument. To some degree, to anybody with a functioning brain, this is not about think of the children. It at all. If you're aware of what's been going on in Fairfax County schools, they have books in the public library depicting sexual acts. They shouldn't be there. The only reason they are is because, ironically enough, Terry McAuliffe, who didn't get elected, but when he was acting governor prior to Northam, vetoed a bill that would require schools to at least let parents know what kind of material is actually available to the children. Things like, I don't know, books depicting imagery of sexual acts that would be available to children underneath the age of 18, which should not be in school libraries. So, that aside, if you're aware of what's been going on in Loudoun County and Fairfax County schools, this shouldn't come as a shock to you, because the ultimate goal of a policy like this is not to preserve the safety of the children or give them a kind of an outlet or someone to talk to in case bad things are indeed happening. We already have policies like that. This is specifically to give the school system and the state more control over the children while undermining parents. That is the entire goal of this. They've been doing it for a long fucking time. It's just now it's very brazen. It's pretty hard to ignore. That's why they're doing this. Now, I guarantee you, if one of the answers to the questions, some of the first ones you brought up, have you ever engaged in sex? Have you ever engaged in oral sex? I guarantee you, if it was with another student, they'd go to the parents, both of the parents, and say, how are you allowing your kids to do this? Say, we don't think that you're fit to be a parent, whether the parents are aware about it or not. Now, if it was with a teacher, you wouldn't hear about it. They would sweep it under the fucking rug, mark my words, because it's happened already.
Yep.
This is pure, and this actually goes back into a Marxist idea. I don't know. I don't think it comes straight from Karl Marx, but it is part of. I believe it's the Frankfurt School, where there is an argument made that the community has just as much of a right to the children as the parents do because they are the future generation. So therefore, they're part of the community. The state views your children as property. They don't view you as a parent in the sense of, it's your kid, you're the legal guardian. They view you as a commodity. And Marxism actually does break this down. And if I'm going to put on my, my snake scales and my crocodile tears, I can understand from an economic standpoint why you view people as a resource. Because technically, from a business standpoint, from an economic standpoint, yes, people are resources. Children are technically resources. They're the future generation. I understand that. But you're completely stripping away humanity, and you're also completely stripping away parental rights, because this is what collectivism does. It's the same way that when you have hardcore Marxist ideology, and I'm not talking about socialists or people who say like, well, the Scandinavian model looks pretty good, which is not socialist, by the way. It's actually just a really regulated free market with a very wide social safety net. So it's not socialism. Sure, shit ain't communism. But that minor aside, what this mentality is that you don't view anyone as having any real personal agency. It's the same way that people push the hardcore vaccine mandates, where it's like, you just need to do it for the betterment of society. Well, what if I have a medical condition I can't? Well, then you're ostracized from society. Well, so I shouldn't have an exemption. And some people come and say, well, there are exemptions. Yeah, sure. Let me see how easy it is for me to get that exemption. Because there's even coercion with doctors. It's a filtering process. They're trying to get rid of certain people. They're trying to ostracize certain people from society because they only want the yes men and the no men. They want people to fall in line. They don't want you to question shit. Just shut up. Do as you're told. In the words of fucking Dr. Fauci. In the words of Biden, this is not about your freedom. You're right, because you have no regard for freedom. You don't care. You just want people to do what you say. It's the same mentality with what you see in Fairfax schools and also in Loudoun County schools, is because you're trying to undermine not only the family unit, you're not only trying to undermine the community, you're trying to strip away any personal rights or any agency that people have over their choices, how they engage within the community, how they live their lives, because you want, ironically enough, for the people that scream diversity at the top of their lungs, they don't want diversity. They want a completely homogenous society that has no variables, no question marks, no falling out of line. And
just for a sec, mate. Do we have any evidence? Actually, it's real funny, CSG, that you say that, because I just sent you a link to it, Doku. So if you want to look in your DMs, you'll see it, and you can scream to yourself a lot.
And yes, we do have evidence of this.
That's what I've been doing.
Not only from the academic standpoint, because there have been plenty of people within academia who actually made these arguments. And oddly enough, despite the fact that I disagree with them, they do make good arguments as to why a more homogenized society would be better because, well, there's less strife, there's less inequality. Everybody knows their role. There's less things to go wrong. Now, here's the problem. And this is a fundamental problem with Marxism and the way they view the world. Is there less things to go wrong? Yeah, sure. It's the same way that we want single points of failure in the IT industry. Here's the difference. Human beings are not computers. The only way that you could make Marxism work in reality is if you completely strip away any aspect of individuality and humanity from people, and everybody just works their 9 to 5, goes to their job, doesn't ask questions, does as they're told, and you have a very structured sense of leadership. In that instance, yes, it does work. I mean, you'd probably have the most efficient society on the planet if you could actually convince people to do this. Keyword, if you could convince people to do this. I mean, you'd be the freaking board, for crying out loud. The problem is, it's also a dystopia. It's not a utopia like people believe. Everyone's going to be happy. No, you'll be taken care of, but being taken care of and being prosperous does not equate to happiness. It's a different mindset. It's a different worldview. I think it's a very naive one, but I can understand why some people would look at it from an academic standpoint and specifically from a top-down academic standpoint and say, well, yeah, this is probably a better way to do things. Yeah, from a mechanical standpoint, sure. But is that really how you want to live your life? I mean, don't you want like a little bit of decadence? Like,
Doku, you will have nothing and you'll be happy about it.
I mean, I get it. If you eat potatoes and vegetables and everything every day, and this is good for you and this and that, you have all the energy you need to do your job. You'll never want for food ever again. Yeah, sure, that's fine. But I kind of would like a steak every now and then, or maybe some bacon. Like, it completely ignores the human aspect of things and the way that we engage in societies with. It becomes far too mechanical. It's too overreaching. Is there a good balance somewhere in between? Sure, yeah, I suppose. But how do we get there from a structural standpoint? Because what you have to realize in terms of these social structures that are enforced by law, which all laws are toothless unless you give them teeth, usually through the threat of force. They mean nothing. So how do we ensure that a society is stable and functioning, but also is not a dystopia? Because as soon as you put laws like this in place, it can be used for all sorts of things. Once you set a precedent, right, you will only eat steak on Wednesdays. Okay, we're only eating steak on Wednesdays. What if there's no steak around on Wednesday? Do we change it? The precedent's been set. Now you have to fight through the system. Okay, we only eat steak on Wednesdays unless steak isn't available, and then we'll eat steak on Sundays. What happens if it's not available on Sundays? Okay, well, if it's not available on Tuesday or Sunday, then it'll be on either Wednesday or Saturday. Eventually, that type of heavy, rigid societal structure will break down to the point where it's like, fuck it, if you can afford steak, eat it whenever you want, or nobody eats steak.
And you know that they'll go to nobody eats steak by preference, because after all, that way everyone goes to an acceptable same level. After all, there will be some that can afford it and some that can't. It's much better to have everyone not eating it, because that way nobody feels like they're being left out.
This is why command and control economies ultimately fail, given enough time, is because you can't dictate how everything is gonna operate, because you have to take into account the human factor, which it's not just Marxism and communism that fail to acknowledge this, but laissez-faire capitalism also kind of fails in this regard, because they give such a degree of human freedom that they don't realize, yeah, there are nefarious people that are going to do nefarious things for their own profit and gain and benefit. So there is a balance between the two. But that aside, all those things considered, all things equal, the best way to find equilibrium is not through regulation, but through free markets, open freedom, people interacting in a way that's beneficial to them. Another way of putting it is a rising tide raises all ships. If you have an abundance of something and I don't, but I have something you need, we can barter for it, we can trade for it, and we're both better off for it because we're allowed to come to that decision on our own without a third party intervening in it. That's ultimately what free markets are supposed to do. Now, when you centralize all the wealth in a handful of people or any other asset, obviously this system becomes basically the same thing as communism. It's just centralized power in a different way, which is why we put anti-monopoly laws and antitrust laws in place. So I'm not fully against regulation. I'm not a hardcore anarcho-capitalist. I do believe that there is a place for regulation within reason. But that's it. Now, direct market intervention from governments, I'm completely against, because government is so inefficient that it actually ends up making the problems they seek to solve worse in the long run. And obviously, you're consolidating power in different hands, but just because you have a legal system behind it or you have a government system behind it doesn't mean it's any better or any worse than if it was in the hand of a bunch of rich people. And let's be blunt, the government and the large corporations, the hardcore rich people, they're all in each other's pockets. It's the $100 cigar club. It's a big one. You ain't in it. It's an accurate statement.
Doku, CSG would like to know why this survey would be considered bad. Do you have an opinion on this? Obviously, I'm stepping back from this because this is Fairfax County, and this is far more your thing than mine.
Well, this survey would be bad for two very fundamental reasons. First off, we're talking about kids here. What you have to realize is that children, regardless of how studious and in line and obedient they are or how rebellious they are, you don't know if they're lying. You don't know if they're telling the truth. When you have blanket surveys like this, you're creating an environment where it's very, very, very easily abused. And second off, it's not the school's place. It's none of their fucking business. Now, again, if a kid's coming to school and they obviously have track marks on their arms, maybe they're bruised, you start noticing certain behavioral patterns, like I was saying earlier, then you pull them aside and go, hey, I notice it looks like you've been sticking a needle in your arm. You've got some sores. It looks like you've been hit a few times. I've been seeing you have a bruise on a different place in your body for the past 2 weeks in a row. Is there something you want to tell us? Are you being bullied? Are you doing something outside of school? On an individual case-by-case basis, this would not necessarily be a bad thing. when you're doing it as a blanket policy, this is not done out of concern for the children. It's done specifically to expand the role of government and the control that the school system has over the children and undermine the position that parents have. And again, we're talking about the same county in Virginia that was having pornographic material in schools, that was doing other things that I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because we'll be here all fucking day talking about it. But also, when parents come to the school board, it's like, hey, I saw what you're teaching my kid. What the fuck is this? You're telling, why is my 11-year-old daughter asking me if she was evil because she was born with white skin? Hey, I just picked her up from school. Like, what are you teaching my kid? And all of a sudden you have the school board turn around and go, oh my God, they're domestic terrorists. We need to bring the police here. And then you have the DOJ try to weaponize the FBI against them. That's where this goes down. This is a step towards a more Orwellian future. It's a bad thing because it expands state control and state power, and it's unreasonable. Which is the key point behind this. It's an unreasonable expansion of state power and control where it doesn't belong. That's why it's bad.
Hopefully that answers your question, CSG. If not, please do not hesitate but ask any more that you feel you need to. And yes, Susan, Hitler Youth.
Yeah, I mean, that's another aspect, is you might be able to, considering what you're teaching kids, you could get the kids to turn on the parents. It's the same way you snitch on your neighbors in Stalin's USSR, Hitler Youth. I mean, again, 1984. If you've seen the movie, the kid pointing at the main character when he's going to fix the lady's sink, and he goes, "You're a thought criminal." It's that type of mentality. That's what this leads to. And I guess the other way to put it is the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
Like, it might sound good, but where it leads is not a good place.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just thought you deserved to know about that because, yeah.
Yeah, that's a concerning one, especially since it's coming off the heels of everything that happened in Loudoun County, where, if anybody is not aware of, there was
You might want to actually mention this because I think, I don't know, but if you say it that way, people have all of the information and there's no confusion. Let's just say we're being transparent.
Yeah, so the reason I'm framing this in the way that I am is not because, well, somewhat it is due to a personal bias, but I have a good reason for it. Fairfax and Loudoun County are both located next to each other. They're in Northern Virginia. And what happened in Loudoun County is there was a student who, I guess the mom, they said he was trans, but then the mom claimed he wasn't. He was just trying to find his identity, but he'd wear like pants one day and wear a skirt another day. Well, that's somewhat relevant to the story, but it's not really the main point. So this kid was wearing a skirt one day and was in the girls' bathroom and anally raped a girl. And the mom's argument is like, well, he's had sexual intercourse with her before. It's like, yeah, but, he said, we're just going to ignore consent. Well, she said yes one time, but she said no the second time. But since she said yes the first time, then it's okay. That's the argument she was trying to go with. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. I know. So this instance happened. The kid did not get charged, did not get arrested. The school board tried to cover it up and then instead transfer this kid from Stonebridge High School, which is in Loudoun County, Virginia, to Broad Run, I believe it was, which is the next school district over. And then he, if I remember correctly, locked a girl in a classroom and forced her to give him a blowjob. And then it got out and it made headline news and the kid got arrested and then he was found guilty on both counts. And yes, they did do a rape kit. They did find that he was indeed guilty of this. The judge found him guilty. Sorry, Obama. The kid is found guilty in a court of law. The rape kit came back positive. This is not just parents overreacting. It's not just right-wing extremism. Fear-mongering or dog whistling or anything. No, this actually happened. The school board tried to cover it up. It happened a second time. And it took the dad of the dad of the girl who it happened to in the first instance to actually go to the school board and bring it up and call them out before anything actually happened. Because if that never happened, guess what? We wouldn't be talking about it right now because nobody would know. And this kid would have gotten away with rape. Hey,
so much for me too. Just saying.
Yeah, that's why I look at these types of policies and go, the school board, it's not that I don't trust them. They've proven themselves to be untrustworthy. And yet at the same time, when parents raise issues about this, when they say, why are you teaching my kid that they're oppressed or they're an oppressor, that they're evil or disenfranchised simply based upon the color of their skin, or why is there pornographic material in the schools? Why are you trying to cover up an actual fucking rape? And then they try to brand the parents domestic terrorists because they want the school board members to resign over trying to cover shit up like this, or not actually doing their jobs. So when you see like this survey in Fairfax County and you see what it comes across as, oh, we're just trying to take care of the kids. Yeah, I call bullshit on that, because you don't really seem to care about the kids at all. You seem to care about your own power more and undermining the parents. And that's where a policy like this will lead. It's just another angle to expand control over children, because much like the Frankfurt School of Marxism says, the children are the future. So if you can control the education system, which is one of the 5 pillars of society that is laid out, one of them is education. There's a reason that they desperately want control over the education system.
Doku, I'd like to respond to CSG. No CSG. There is no such thing as CRT that is not taught in any of these schools. Okay, be very careful what you say, sir. CRT is not taught in their schools. Okay, do carry on.
Would you like me to elaborate on that one?
Oh, please do. But I wanted it very clear. CRT is not, I repeat, not taught in their schools. All yours.
So this is the semantics game that the mainstream media and Terry McAuliffe try to play in. It's clever. Don't get me wrong, it's clever. But if you actually know the details behind what they're saying, it's pretty obvious what they're doing. So is CRT taught in schools? The answer without bias and spin is that no, it is not taught in schools because it is not part of the official school curriculum. What it is taught to, or who it is taught to, however, are the teachers. And through school policy and how students are to be treated, CRT is not directly taught. They're not reading Kendi or any other people who write books about it. It's taught to the teachers. It's applied in how school policy is structured. And then by extension, it is applied to the classroom, and it is applied by further extension to the students and how students are treated. So it's not taught, but it is indeed applied.
Don't forget that with the schools, they don't teach CRT, they teach critical race applied principles. That is how they get around this, by renaming it.
Exactly. It's a semantics game. Are they teaching critical race theory? No, because it's not called critical race theory, and also technically it's not part of the official curriculum. But yes, it is indeed applied in the schools and how they instruct children, how they treat children, how they structure classroom environments, how they the required training for their teachers. It's so.
From CSG, what policy, please?
Well, the 2 big ones is obviously it's they do the diversity inclusion training, which is right everything. If you go through and you look at what teachers are taught when it comes to diversity and inclusion, it's all right out of the CRT handbook. And of course they'll say, oh, we're just trying to teach history. Teaching history is not what we're talking about. You can teach history. That's fine. It's already taught. When you start actively telling students that white people are oppressors, or because you're black or brown that you're oppressed, or you have less opportunities, you're disadvantaged, you're not teaching them history. You're actively teaching them a societal structure and your worldview that molds and shapes their viewpoint and how they not only view themselves, but how they view others in the world around them. That's not education. That's indoctrination and manipulation. And that's what's been happening in schools, albeit very subtly, except in some extreme cases that catch headline news attention. But this is what's been happening. So the first one that's the big one is the diversity and inclusion training. We've seen it not only in schools, you see it in large corporate settings.
CSG. Wait, what teachers tell children that? Sorry to interrupt you, mate, but I'm keeping up on the information.
No, that's fine. And CSG, I could give you a lot of different examples. There have been videos, there have been testimonies, there's been just in Loudoun County alone, there was one teacher that resigned almost in tears over it because she was against the policy, and they said, no, you have to adhere to this certain policy because this is how we treat students, because they believe that essentially what they believe is that if a ethnic minority is doing poorly, then it's because, well, it's through the lens of racism. It's because they're black or brown or whatever. And if a white kid is doing better than somebody else, it's because they're white and they have privilege. They have been subtly or very overtly doing this for quite some time. It's just a lot more brazen now because they've gotten away with it for a long time, so I can't really blame them.
Looks like CSG would like to join us. CSG, I'm putting the link into chat. Pop in when you decide you're ready, mate.
All right, I'll wait for him.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I just thought you should know about Fairfax County. Don't get me wrong, I understand what he's trying to say, that doing surveys of the children, it's not necessarily a bad thing, that as may be, but 12-year-old children, just the suggestion of things like that, I realise because America and England are different, but to us, that's 10-year-old children.
Well, that's why I wanted to lead in where I can understand why some people would say, like, well, this is actually technically a good thing, because I can understand the argument. So I don't want to make a bad faith argument from that standpoint. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I understand how this can be very easily abused, and Fairfax County and Loudoun County school boards don't exactly have a good track record.
CSG's here. Hello, dude. How's it going, man?
Yeah, not too bad. How are both of you doing?
What's up, CSG?
I'm doing quite fine. I'm doing fine. Thank you very much, sir. I'm going to leave you two to talk about this because, I just thought Doku needed to know, it being Fairfax County and him being close by it. So I thought I'd let him know. You two.
I like having a counterbalance. Yeah, I like having a counterbalance to my opinions. So I'm going to let CSG go first, and then I'll respond.
I'm more interested in keeping up asking questions, simply because I don't keep up with as much stories as I used to. Unfortunately, I'm too fucking busy all the goddamn time. So when I hear stories like this, I kind of want to find out what the truth is. And every now and again, I do cursory searches, and not saying yourselves, I really don't mean that, and I mean no implications whatsoever when I say this to you, because I know you two quite well, and I know you wouldn't try and twist anything, so I'm not implying that. But when I've heard it from other people, I look to the story, and the story themselves doesn't actually ever corroborate what they've actually said, which is why I'm asking questions, because if you've seen it, there must be something that's linking you to that opinion, because I know you don't neither of you normally jump to that opinion without evidence. So that's why I'm asking, rather than going, you're fucking wrong, you're blah, 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 blah.
Doku, this one's mine for a moment. Hopefully, CSG, you had to look at that link that I put in chat.
Yeah, I read it.
Okay, good. That was not the one that I saw. That's just one of the types that I saw, and it actually gave the information that I saw. That's why I sent it on to Doku. The one I saw actually had about 12 different questions. And to put it, I get the idea that you want to make sure about what the kid's been up to, but okay, they pushed the whole point of what have you done? What have you done? What? And there was about out of what was supposed to be, I think, 12 questions. I think there was at least 5 of them that what sort of sexual activity have you done? Now, I realise that you want to get information from kids, but let's be honest, mate. We were all kids. Are you really going to tell any of these people anything that's even vaguely close to the truth if you can avoid it?
Probably not. But
Yeah.
I would like to point out that the actual story that you link to starts from 12-year-olds going up to 16-year-olds. So
16,
yeah. So as far as I'm aware, it starts from eighth grade and goes up to 12th grade for Americans.
Sounds about right.
The story itself also points out to the fact of they asked 4 to 5 questions, most of them in those questions that we're focusing on. Seems to be asking questions about, have you ever done anything sexual? Have you ever done anything sexual within the last year? Have you done anything sexual within the last 3 months? Now, I agree with you that these are quite intrusive questions to ask children. But
Yes.
if we want to put it that way, are 12 to 16-year-olds actually children? Because as you quite rightly said, when I was between those ages, I wouldn't have thought I was a child at some specific points, especially from 14 onwards.
Yeah. The reason I had issues with it was because to us being Brits, I generally work on the idea you just take 2 years off because let's face it, Americans have got 18, we've got 16. You're looking at 10, a minimum age of 10-year-old children. They're asking this question. Don't get me wrong. I know this sort of thing occurs. I'm not actually questioning the fact that it can occur. I'm arguing the fact that, dude, a bit young, man. It's just a little bit much. And it niggled me. I'm going to be completely blunt. It really did. Something about it just didn't seem right. That's why I wanted Doku's opinion. Because, again, as I've said, this is much more his area than me.
I know. I mean, I completely and utterly agree. It is something that when you first read the story, you're kind of like, "Oh, that's a bit. Oh, why are they doing that?" But in the actual story that you linked as well, it actually goes on to say that the actual Fairfax County school that they're doing this at is actually a regular haunt in where they actually do these government surveys. They're actually taking this type of information and being able to store stuff that's similar to be able to, do some social studies to find out what's going on, how everything's are. Because let's put it this way, right? We've had about a year, let's say a year off of people being able to follow what's going on in schools. So people are trying to find out if anybody's got any sort of drug-related incidences, any sort of alcoholic-related incidents, if they're smoking, if they're not smoking, just crap like that in general, which I'm sure you remember from your time in school. Teachers were always fucking asking what you were doing. Well, 9 times out of 10, they were normally asking why you're having a cigarette on the field with them while they're having the cigarette. But that's just us Brits.
Yeah, I know that one.
It's not just you guys. I used to go out and smoke on the loading dock, and there was always one teacher that I would bum cigarettes off of, or she would bum one off me.
Yeah, I mean that's basically all it is. Me personally, I know that we're looking at it from a perspective of school asking these questions bad, and don't get me wrong. In general, I do understand where you're coming from, and it does feel that aspect, and I'm with you on it. But as well as I think it's more of a case of trying to find out what the well-being of your children are. Now, again, what Doku said before about the fucking school board trying to hide the fucking rape, completely not agree. School boards do school board shit. They always have done.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that this is linked to that necessarily how bad that school board is, though.
No. That's so aside from Fairfax County kind of being one that it's a school board that's just as bad as Loudoun. They were the first one that got the pornographic material in school libraries story actually leaked. That's where it started, but it happened.
Can I just correct you on that one? I know that when the book was all put out, that it was a case of it being, it's pornographic because there's somebody that looks like they're sucking dick. But you have to remember that this is also a sexual education book. Now, you could argue, and I'm with you from a conservative point of view, that it goes into too much detail and it's too graphic, and that's definitely an argument that you could have. But let's not try and characterize it as something that it's not. It was a sexual education book. It wasn't just for, pornography. Here you go, draw pictures.
So the book that I'm talking about actually was not in a sex ed class. It was actually in the school library.
In the library. Yes, I know, but it was under the sexual education. Yes, but it was under the sexual education banner. That's the reason why it was brought in. It wasn't just look, pornography. It was under a specific reason why it was there. Now, again, you could argue that the content was too explicit, and that's definitely an argument that you could have, and I'd probably agree with you. But
okay,
let's
so
not try and
I would
frame it that way.
So then I would reframe it. It's unnecessarily explicit material. And it's widely accessible to anybody who walks into the library. So it doesn't matter what age you are. If you walk into the library, you can get it. And we're talking about public schools. And in the United States, when you're going from 6th, 7th, 8th grade, you do visit the high school. You can go to the library. A lot of times there are classes or orientations that do take place in the public library, and you're allowed to walk around and look at the material. So you could have kids as young as 8, 9 years old that just look at this book. And again, overly explicit material. It doesn't, in my personal opinion, it doesn't fulfill the role of sexual education in terms of teaching kids like, this is how you have safe sex, this is how sex works, this is biology. It's teaching kids things that, to be blunt, in my opinion, is not the place of public schools to be teaching.
Who should be teaching it then? Admittedly, if you think that
parents. This should be the purview of the parents. Wait,
let me finish before you answer, because otherwise it would be a really weird answer, me saying what you want your parents to teach you how to do a blowjob.
Fair enough.
Maybe I don't do that joke at this point. What do you think, Doku?
Yeah, let's just pass on that joke real quick.
Okay, just checking.
Sorry, CSG, I'm gonna let you finish.
That's absolutely fine. I like to finish quite a lot.
That's actually what they all said as well. It's quite funny.
Hey, I never said I finished quick though.
This is fair.
I love how we can transition from a serious topic to just making jokes.
Yeah.
Hey, that's the reason why we all get on quite well. Yeah, we have different political points of view, but at least we actually treat each other in earnest rather than trying to say, well, this is your position because I believe it is, where none of us seem to do that at all.
I'm actually glad you bring that up, because I feel like that's something we've really lost in society. It's just a mutual sense of respect, regardless if you agree or disagree with somebody.
Yeah, I think discourse has been lost that way, because rather than it being a case of, okay, well, you think this is a porn book, so you're obviously fucking stupid. It's like, well, no, it's just the way that the pictures look. You can see that it looks more explicit than what a normal sexual education book. So if they have that opinion of it being that way, maybe there's a reason for it, and maybe we should address it and not try and just call them stupid for them thinking that something that obviously looks explicit may be something that's explicit.
That's a very good point, because again, I might see certain things and I have my own personal viewpoint, my own personal opinion on it, but that doesn't mean that everybody else is going to view it the same way. So what we have to do if we want to, in my opinion, I keep saying this too much. If we want to have a more stable society and a more well-structured social discourse that is beneficial to the larger whole, being able to understand that not everybody is going to view things the same way that you view them, and being able to listen to other people and respect their opinions and try to at least understand where they're coming from, as opposed to just, as you were saying, like, oh, you don't think the way I think, or you don't see it the same way I do, so therefore you're dumb. That's not beneficial at all. It just builds animosity. It doesn't do anything constructive. It's destructive. So,
well, it does even worse than what you've just said. It others. And it doesn't matter if it's the right that others the left, and it doesn't matter if it's the left that others the right. It's a case of when you start using simple crap schemas to go, well, this person doesn't believe in what I believe, so they're obviously Satan. Or this person doesn't think that socialism works, so he's obviously completely capitalist and wants everything to be capitalism. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't further any sort of discourse. You can't have the discourse about, well, maybe there should be some sort of regulations with a safety net, maybe, or maybe that there is some sort of form of theology that may actually be beneficial to why the way that we've actually come up as a human species and been able to interact so easily. Maybe there's benefits, maybe there isn't. But if we don't talk about it, how the hell do we fucking know?
No, and you're 100% correct, because without being able to have, again, like a civil discourse and explain our experiences or our point of view, and not only give our experiences and point of views to other people, but also listen to what other people's experiences and point of views are, and then try to come to some sort of consensus or conclusion, the only other option is trial and error. And trial and error is probably the more dangerous way to go.
Well, I wouldn't even say that it's trial and error. It's the way that society seems to be going is echo chambers. It doesn't seem to really matter if it's left wing, right wing, centers, fucking neolibs, or whatever. Everybody seems to be grouping rather than trying to intermingle and talk to each other and find out what the best form of discourse is. Because let's be honest, capitalism by itself is not the best of ideas. It's not the worst, but it's not the best of ideas. We need regulation, otherwise humanity fucks everything up, because humans are fucking idiots. Same thing with communism. It's the same thing. Maybe a good idea, maybe a bad idea, but if we don't interact and counterbalance the two far extremes, how are we going to find a equilibrium between the two that we can actually live in society and enjoy each other's company? Because otherwise all it is we believe that the other side is evil because they don't believe what we believe in. And when did that actually become the human fucking condition?
Dude, I've put something in private chat. You might want to have a look at the CSG. Just try not to laugh too much, okay?
Oh, yeah. I'm after the last conversation I had with MC. I'm just not touching anything to do with that.
God, what did you put in the chat?
I'll give you a clue. Vaccine, Satan, tracker.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I'm done arguing about the vaccine mandates. My opinion is not going to change. Talk to your doctor and make the decision that's right for you. It's nobody else's fucking business. That's my opinion. That's my stance.
Yep. By the way, this whole conversation occurred because we were originally going to be talking about the meme of Attack on Titan. I'm assuming you saw it, CSG.
Probably not. I kind of frequent in different circles nowadays.
Okay. Well, apparently some stroke of genius decided. Do you know what the anime Attack on Titan? Wow. Okay. He's gone.
Sorry, I had to mute myself real quick. I had a bit of a coughing fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. First of all, are you okay?
Oh, I'm good. I think I just it's just stuff caught in the throat. Hopefully it's not bronchitis or pneumonia, but again, time will tell.
Yep, no, just checking. CSG, have you heard of the anime Attack on Titan?
I may have done. I've only watched the first season, unfortunately.
Okay, well, you know about it then. Well, a meme has come out because some Republican genius, whose name, unfortunately, I cannot remember because it's something really weird, has basically took the opening sequence and altered the heads of the monsters and put AOC and someone else on there. And it basically, the image showed someone leaping up to this monster and hacking them in the back of the head. And yeah, well, that was pretty much what this stream was started on. And then it just went sideways. You can blame me for that.
Paul Gosser.
That's the boy. Thank you. I knew you'd find it. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Odd name.
It is. Right. This is going to be a weird argument to begin with, but with the idea of doing drawings and animations and cartoons and the idea of freedom of expression or free speech, whatever way you want to classify it as, it's not a direct call to killing AOC. It's a fucking meme, basically. And
Yeah.
okay, she has every right in being pissed off and thinking that the Republicans want to kill her. Because let's be honest, most Republicans probably fucking do. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Actually,
But to
I disagree on that one, CSG. We don't want her to go away because, well, I'll put it this way. Never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake, and she just gives us more reasons to say, yeah, this is what you don't want to do. So she's technically beneficial to some degree.
The reason I made the point of it was because of dear old Nancy Pelosi decided to, in a moment of genius, and trust me, that sigh was needed, decided that she wants to bring the FBI in on this meme.
Yeah. As I was saying earlier, I don't know if you caught the beginning of the stream, CSG, but what we were kind of laughing about is it's a really bad meme. It's really stupid. It's verging on cringy. But the fact that people are freaking out about it to the degree that they are is what makes it funny.
Yeah.
And also, weirdly enough, I know this is a strange aside, but a lot of Republicans that I've talked to actually think AOC is hot. I don't know why, but she's not my cup of tea. Hey, to each their own.
to be fair, I don't really give a shit about AOC. Like, same as I don't really give a shit about most politicians, let alone American politicians.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't understand how anybody would go, right, I want to call the FBI in. Okay, what for? Well, I want to find out who did it. We know who did it. I want to find out why he did it. He was taking the piss out of you. Saying that you're a fucking, like, dunce monster that, like, people can jump up and fucking just slash because you're so slow and stupid, basically. So what do you want the FBI for? I want a criminal investigation. Into what? It's a fucking meme.
That's the question we've been asking. They're trying to incite violence by using a very poorly done superimposed anime intro as a meme. Okay, are you trying to waste money, or are you trying to make the meme actually funnier than it should be because you're making it funnier than it should be?
Okay, for the stupid Democrats in the back, and for stupid people in general, what would you find to be more of a call to violence? A fucking meme of a Attack on Titan opening scene, or somebody beating the shit out of an effigy and literally coming as they fucking doing it?
Don't ask questions.
because I literally know what one I would call more of a call to arms when the effigy looks like a president and you're literally smacking it so hard and screaming at the person's name while you're doing it. It's probably more closer to a call of action, or at least intimidating that call of action, than a fucking drawing.
Yeah.
CSG, let's be honest, we've had sitting politicians go to areas where there's open protest or saying, let them know we mean business, or you go out there and you form a crowd. That's a direct call to action coming from someone who is in an authoritative position. But nobody really talks about that. That gets a free pass. But God forbid that you be on the other side of the aisle and make a really stupid anime meme. This is the double standard that we're constantly pointing out, because nobody freaks out about that. And by the way, yeah, those call to actions coming from Auntie Maxine did result in people going out and harassing sitting members of Congress while they're trying to have dinner, to an extent where, yeah, you could reasonably actually fear. I'm not going to go as far as to say fear for your life, but be reasonably concerned for your well-being.
Well, I don't know. You could quite easily jump to the hypothetical of being concerned for your life when you're literally eating a turkey sandwich with your daughter and wife while you've got 60 to 80 to 100 people outside the shop going, "We want you dead."
Yeah, there's a subtle.
Yeah. It's a lot of people say, "Oh, but it's free speech." It's like, yeah, it is, but it's a result of a direct call to action. And considering the fact that we've already seen, in case people have forgotten, at the Republican baseball practice or whatever, somebody actually did show up and shot two sitting members of Congress. So maybe that's a little bit more of a concern than, again, the absolutely stupid anime meme that everybody thinks is the end of the world for some god awful reason?
I'll be really honest. I find it really interesting because I'm obviously a little bit older than probably both of you two now. I'm not as old as other people that have been on the show, and admittedly that's fine. But I kind of look at both sides of the political aisle now, and I just think, what the fuck are you doing? Because I don't really align with either side anymore.
Yeah.
Because like when I call out like the conservatives on our side for literally sleaze, corruption, and nepotism, all my conservative friends go, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't show weakness. You can't." It's like, so I can't call them out for being bastards and wanting them to be better and showing them in a better light. And because I've done that, I'm now a Labour supporter. Okay, that makes sense. And then when I
Mhm.
do the same thing for Labour because Labour are fucking worse in my opinion,
Yeah.
I'm now no longer a leftist and I'm now back to being a conservative. It's like, why can't I just have opinions on both sides and realize that both sides are shit?
I can answer that actually. It's because right, you might not like what I'm about to say, but it's because there are only two real parties in Britain. I realise that the Liberal Democrats technically still exist, but I actually think there are probably more janitors in the House of Parliament than there are sitting uh, Social Democrats. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. There are basically just the Conservatives and Labour, and they have been at each other's throat for so long. Something needs to be done, and no offence to the Liberals, it's not them.
No, completely, I completely don't really understand. I mean, I was having a conversation with an American that was trying to talk about conservatism and Christian conservatism, and I was trying to point out that the UK conservatives are not the same as the American conservatives. We're probably a hell of a lot more left-leaning and more of a centre-ish aspect. Where fiscally conservative, but probably socially liberal in most cases, not all cases, but you know, when you're trying to do a broad church, you don't get everybody in.
He's
And
not wrong.
yeah, and they were like, "Oh right, okay, well let's talk about Brexit and the politicking of that and all of the immigration laws." And I was like, "Okay, so what immigration laws do you think are right wing from the Conservatives?" Nothing. Okay, so what politicking did Brexit do? Oh, they were talking about the NHS. Do you know what they were talking about the NHS? And do you know what was being talked about by the NHS and who was actually talking about it? Nothing. And it's just like, so you just have this presumption that everybody's the same everywhere. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. And it goes back to what Doku and I were saying beforehand. Yeah, okay, people have disagreements, and that's absolutely fine. That makes the world fucking go round. As long as we can civilly disagree and then work out what is in between so we can come together and try to work for both sides and try and get something fucking done, then that makes the world go round. Not
Yes.
one side winning all the time and not one side losing all the time, or vice versa, or even fighting in the fucking streets to try and get your side to win. That's not how society works.
Agree. Your opinion,
See, whenever
Doku? Oh, go on, mate.
no,
Sorry.
literally all I was going to say was, so when everybody thought that I was going to come on and me and Doku were going to shout at each other about CRT, doesn't seem to have worked that way, does it?
No, no. To be honest, we've done streams about CRT, and I just absolutely love this one. But CRAP, and you know, it doesn't matter what we say; things are going to happen. It's just a matter of when it's time for the people, and it occurs to me I may end up sounding slightly leftist with this, but it's when the people finally get together and actually turn around to their ruling classes and go, no. And that is, I think, going to be the moment where the ruling classes are going to have to make a decision. I just hope that they're not going to do something bloody stupid, to be honest with you.
I mean that's fair enough. From my opinion of what CRT is, yeah, there is a lot of professors that are in universities that are definitely using the aspect of CRT to push the idea of black separatism or the idea of black nationalism. And I get that's a worrying thought if somebody's going to be trying to push that into the idea of schooling or into the idea of colleges. I get that's kind of worrying that they would use that as a backdoor to do that. But from my understanding of what CRT has been put forward as, at least in general, it seems to be a case of understanding how things have affected people from a specific lens. So if we were talking about the history of how people from Haiti have been affected from the earthquake, we would want to try and look at it from their perspective rather than an American perspective. And I think that's actually a really good way of looking at history and a really good way of being able to get people to empathize with different groups to be able to work out how and why these things have happened and how these people have actually felt and how it's, affected them. Now, again, I still don't think that it's good to say, well, all white people were bad. And I would definitely be under the opinion that it's somewhat, just a little bit, just a little bit racist, just a little bit. So I think it's like with the idea of transgenderism. Most people understand that the idea of gender dysphoria is to do with a psychological aspect, and gender expression is to do with the psychological expression and the physical expression of that psychology, where biologically you're talking about sex as a binary. But gender isn't a binary, but sex is. You do get some people, admittedly, that are on the right fucking other end, where they're like, no, there is no such thing as biology because of intersex. And it's just like, yeah, name one fucking sex that comes out of intersex that isn't male or female. Just one. I'll wait.
We're going to be waiting for a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. Which is like why I like to make the distinction, because I personally support most of the people that are to do with trans. I understand that it's to do with a psychological dysphoria and completely not understand where that's coming from and how the gender expression is expressed. I completely understand that. I'm with that. I'm a supporter of LGBTQ. But I don't understand why when you have activists go, yeah, but biology is also not a binary. It's like, biology does not say that. Why are you muddying the waters? You've got so far on the psychology aspect where people, even like me, that used to be so conservative on the issue, are fucking starting to understand it. Where, psychology is gender. We can understand this. That means biology is safe. We get it. We understand it. To then now going, wait, you want to change biology? That's not going to happen.
Another, I know this is kind of a maybe slightly off topic, but it's relevant in my opinion.
Never.
But when you try to talk about, for example, gender dysphoria and transgender, and you try to put the argument forth that is it a good or a bad thing? I'm not going down that road. I'm saying that specifically, yes, there is a chemical imbalance in the brain. The brain and the way that people perceive themselves does not match up with their actual physical biology. But if you try to talk about it in that sense from an unbiased medical standpoint, not ideological, just there is a chemical imbalance in the brain. It is technically a disorder by definition. People freak out like, oh my God, you're saying it's a bad thing. It's like, no, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's something that should be addressed. Maybe you should talk to someone about it. Maybe there is something that can be done. If surgery transitioning from one gender to the other if that's your solution, I'm not going to judge you for it. By all means, if that's what's going to make you happy, be my guest. I'm not going to judge you based on that. But we need to have an honest conversation with the emotional aspect put to the side and just be honest and upfront that, yes, this is not technically normal. It's a small fraction of the population. And being perfectly honest about this conversation. Because Chef Carolyn on Jesse Miller from The Crow's Nest, she's trans. Do you see me talking shit about Chef? Do you see me referring to her as he instead of she? No, it's a she as far as I'm concerned, because Chef, I've always known Chef as she. I don't really care about the fact that she's trans. All I know is that she's a she. That doesn't matter to me. And I don't want to see people going through life being miserable. Again, highest suicide rate amongst any demographic. I don't want to see that happen. I'm not a fundamentally malicious person. I do think, though, that we have to have an honest conversation about what these types of conditions entail and how they affect people and how they live their lives. And if hormone therapy is something you have to go through, if just talking to someone is what you have to do, if having surgery is something you have to do so that you can live a life that's happy and you're not miserable, so you don't commit suicide, I'm okay with that. I'm not saying you shouldn't or you can't. I'm not saying you're a bad person for making those decisions. That's not. I don't think anybody's saying that on either side of the coin. I think.
Well, I disagree with that bit, but carry on.
Before you do, mate, question. This chef, is that the same one that I sent the picture of the burger to on Twitter?
No. That's a different person. This is
okay,
Chef
cool.
Carolyn.
Just want to make sure. Carry on, mate.
I still can't believe that burger got like 80 likes.
Oh no! Before you do, did you see the other burger picture I put?
Yeah, I did. And
did you examine it?
Yeah, I did.
You know those are slices of caramel and chocolate, not sauces.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
Okay, just want to say, carry on, mate. So, apologies for interrupting you.
No, you're fine, dude. But so I guess I'll backtrack slightly. There are some people who view it as some sort of abhorrent affront, or there obviously are always outliers. And I'm not accounting for them. The vast majority of people, I don't think, have any sort of malicious view of, oh, you're trans or you're gay, like you're evil, you're the devil, like this, that. I don't think people view others in that sense. It's when you start trying to push an ideology on someone, when you try to force them to change who they are, when you start trying to influence them or their children or their family members, when you do so in an aggressive manner, in a way that they view as an attack, then you start to get pushback. Then you start to see people become a little more vocal about things. And obviously I'm viewing this simply from how I observe things. It's because this has become such a hot button issue, because people keep pushing it to the forefront of the political and social discourse. And it's, if you don't do this, then you're A, B, C, or D word, and you get ostracized, you lose your job, you have people attack you, you have people threaten you, you have people call you all sorts of names. People don't take kindly to that. It's not about live and let live. I want you to be as happy as possible, do what's best for you. It's about, you must accept me. Like the Twitter video that was going, or the TikTok video that was going around just the other day, where it's like, you will respect me, you will do this, you will do that. Mm-hmm. I don't have to. You're not going to force me to do something. And it's not that I hate you because you're thing. It's because the way you're approaching me, the way you're trying to dictate to me and tell me what I can do, what I will do, what I cannot do, what I will not do, that kind of pisses people off. It doesn't win them over. It doesn't bring them to your side. It makes you come across as an asshole. And this goes for the other side too. I'm not just specifically talking about how heavy-handed the LGBT community has become, but the other side of the coin, where everyone is bad and evil because they're part of the LGBT community, because not all of them are like that. They're just as bad. It's when you start becoming very dictatorial and authoritarian and aggressive, and start ultimately trying to threaten people, or trying to ostracize them, do things like that. That's where the pot really starts boiling over. But I've talked too long. CSG, what do you think?
Can you hear me still?
Yeah,
we got you, mate.
That's fine. Yeah, I just couldn't see my little thing bloody moving. It's probably because of the phone. It's fine.
Okay.
Overall, I actually agree with you mostly. I mean, I could nitpick and go through things like that, which I don't really think is appropriate. I don't really need to. The only thing I will say is, "thing" is probably not the best use of words, but other than that,
fair enough. That is a fair critique.
If I may, would I be correct in suggesting that you meant X, where X equals object, not thing, as a derogative.
I mean, there's literally people that call themselves deer. There's probably is somebody that would want to be called a thing. So
Fair point.
Technically, it is now an accepted pronoun, so I don't know. I can't keep track of the rules anymore.
Oh, good. Finally, it is acceptable. Thank you very much. That's all I need to know. That's what I prefer to use anyway.
no, I mean, overall, I actually agree with Doku mostly. I think the main problems is with talking about the trans issues is because it is a mental condition and it's touched on, and sometimes people talk about it as a mental illness and so on and so forth. I think it's touched onto the taboo subject, where overall we still don't really talk about mental health at all anyway. So when we don't even talk about the idea of what autism is, when we don't even talk about the idea of depression, when we won't even touch on these basic fundamentals that affect like 1 in 3 or 1 in 5, depending, when we don't even talk about that, how can we have a detailed and mature conversation when we all think that something that is to do with mental health can or is taboo? Because it's that taboo that makes people feel uncomfortable. It's not necessarily the conversation of talking about trans. I think it's more to do with the taboo of talking about, is it a mental health issue, rather than it being a case of the expression and everything else like that. I'm obviously of a different opinion because I've done a little bit of counselling and things like that. So for me, it's easy to talk about. And yes, for people in the chat, yes, I counselled myself. I'm joking, obviously. But I do think that that's the major issue when talking about trans issues, is simply because that one side always perceives negativity on the other side, because that there's such a cloud that hangs over it, because it's a taboo subject. Mental health is always a taboo subject. So even if it is a legitimate subject that has nothing wrong with it whatsoever, people will still want to shy away from it because they feel that it's a taboo subject, because they may not feel that they know enough about it. So they just shout out platitudes and then run away. Now that happens on all sides. They're not just from the left perspective of defending it, but it's also from the right from attacking it. And that's not always the case either. There are people on the right that do support it and try and defend it. So there's not just a stereotypical one-way thing. I do think that when we try to understand something, it's the same thing as in the 90s and 80s when we were all worried about the gays that were coming to get us, the gays that were trying to nick our children's, the gays that were trying to get into the churches so that they could have the pastors. It was a case of, well, we were scared. Like, people were scared because they didn't know what the fuck was going on. They thought that they were going to be touched themselves, or they thought that they were going to be interrupted, or their lives were going to be affected. And then when people realised it's just a, oh, okay, it's just that they're going to hold hands and, you know, they're going to fuck off and do their own thing themselves in their own time. Okay, well, that's not fucking anything to worry about. And this will be the same thing that happens with trans in a couple of years' time. Everybody will just go, whatever.
And that's actually a very good point, because when you do have a social stigma around something and it makes it difficult to talk about in the public discourse, it doesn't benefit anybody. The best example I can use is, there's a long point in time where it's like, oh, you're gay. You immediately have this stigma about you, and society kind of views you in a certain light. It's not a good one. It's a negative one. And then you have the
even to some aspect today, if you were to, if in some aspects, depending where you are, if you were to come out and say you're gay, some people will automatically think that because you've come out of that you're horrible, you're this, you're that. And that's nothing to say to the person that comes out as gay, because they're probably not. But it's just that stigma is still attached to that, and it's still been like 20 years of them being able to have their freedoms and their equality. So when people talk about the trans issues, it's only something that's just come up. It's still raw. Yeah, okay, bigotry shouldn't be accepted, and nobody is saying that. But the more that you explain why something is happening, the more you normalize it. The more you tell somebody you need to accept it, the more people rebel against it. The more that you explain it, it's accepted. So let's explain it.
And so there's two examples I want to use since we're on this topic. And
no.
So the first one is obviously we have gay pride parades, and every company under the sun does the rainbow logo. We get it. You're trying to sell a product. You're trying to appeal to something. We understand it.
How dare you? I completely and utterly support them all year round. Okay, just that month.
But so what I find, and I'll drink for this, Jensen, so don't worry. What I find most interesting
Interesting.
is you can have one side going, oh, gay pride parade, yes, we celebrate that. Yeah, it's stunning and brave, whatever you want to call it. Okay, cool. I get it. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. Fine. You do you. I don't care. But then someone who's a edgelord comes out and they want to have a straight pride parade, and all of a sudden it's somehow demeaning. It's like, well, you could maybe take it as like, okay, they're trying to take the piss. Maybe they're mocking, maybe they're making a joke, sure, but are they hurting anybody? It all of a sudden, like, the straight pride parade is like the worst thing to ever happen. It's like they're not hurting anyone. You could say it's tasteless, sure, and you might have a pretty solid argument there. I'm not going to say you wouldn't, but they're not doing anything that having a gay pride parade isn't doing. They're just, hey, you're gay? Cool, good for you. I'm straight. Hey, cool, good for me. I'm going to celebrate my straight pride. It's no different. It's just another.
Could I quickly push back a little bit on that?
Yeah,
Go for it.
Say, for instance, that I started being racist to somebody. Would you say that those words themselves are hurtful, or is it the meaning behind the words that are actually hurtful?
I'd say it would be the meaning behind it.
So if it would be a case of I perceive meaning of you coming out of saying straight parade because I feel that you're coming out to try and demean the pride movement and demean what's going on, do you not think that it has a legitimacy for them to say, well, I think you're doing this because?
You could perceive it that way, but again, you're going down a bit of a rabbit hole, and it actually leads into my second example that I wanted to use, but I'll put that on the back burner just for the moment. Maybe I'm going to do a straight pride parade alongside a gay pride parade because I stand in solidarity with people who are homosexual. Like, maybe I'm not doing it to be demeaning. Like this, you would have to be, you're essentially putting speculation or assumption onto what the actual intention is. Could it come across as trying to be mocking or demeaning or taking the piss? It could come across that way, but we don't necessarily understand the intention behind it. So to just jump to that conclusion, I think, is a bit unfair, which is the same way when people freaked out. So this was my second example. When the San Francisco Gay Man's Choir came out and they did that song, Yes, We're Coming for Your Children. You could make
I found that so funny.
Yeah, you could make the same argument there, because when I saw it, I was like, okay, yeah, this is kind of tasteless, and it's not gonna bring people to your side, because there are people that are gonna take it seriously because they won't understand, like, they're making a joke, but it's the same thing. So they're making a joke. I get it, but just because one side does it and the other side, when one side does it and the other side does it, one side says, oh, this is fine, but when they do it, but essentially the same thing, it's not okay. Either both are okay or neither are okay. In my opinion, both are okay. Sing your meme song and have your straight pride parade. It's not really.
I think the reason is that it's slightly different. And I agree with you that if it was just as basic as you've just described it, I would agree with you that there is no difference. But with the straight pride parade, it was a case of it come from 4chan. Same as when Super Straight come out, it was a white supremacist, and that's no word of a lie, you can actually trace it back, was actually a white supremacist way of getting SS onto mainstream media as Super Straight. So it depends on why things are happening to whether or not it's actually acceptable or not. Now, again, if it's just a straight, well, I'm super straight, then yeah, fine. I mean, as you say, it's a bit tasteless, but you have to understand the reasons why it originated first.
Well,
and again, I think that's important.
And again, that's also part of the troll, and it's where I say 4chan doesn't just play with fire; they make fires to play with fire. It's like when they did the whole OK hand sign and drinking milk. They do it because they know it's inflammatory, and I can't really say whether or not these people truly believe it or they don't, because again, if anybody who's even vaguely familiar with 4chan, half the stuff they do is simply because they know it's going to get a visceral reaction from people. And that's why they do it. Most of them is just like, hey, I'm going to convince a bunch of people that drinking milk is racist, and the OK Handstein stands for white power, and get super straight up and then get the ADL to freak out and then get it on CNN, and then they sit back and they eat their Cheetos and drink their Mountain Dew and they sit there and laugh. I guarantee you at least half these people don't even believe that shit. A vast majority. I know the one guy who started the whole the Steven Universe thing where they're trying to whitewash everything was a black dude. They do it because they're edgelords and shitlords and fucking trolls. Like, they do it because they think it's funny. And to some degree, it kind of is. It's funny. I mean, it's tasteless, but it's still funny. But most of these people don't actually believe that shit. You might get a small group of people that actually do believe it, but they're, again, in the vast minority. Most people who see this type of stuff realize you're being an edgelord. This is a troll. You're trying to get a rise out of people. You're trying to get a reaction. And they laugh at it, or they scoff at it, or they spit at it, and they go, you're a fucking shithead, and then they move on. Most people don't take this shit seriously, and they shouldn't. They really shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But we live in such a delicate state of society where people see something that offends them, and everybody.
How dare you say that? I'm so offended.
But we live in such a state of society where people are so easily offended. It's not that, I don't even truly believe it's that they're offended directly. It's that they're looking for a reason to be offended because it gets them attention, and it's a positive aspect to them because they need something. They need something to latch onto. They need a boogeyman. It's the same way people looked at Trump, or they look at AOC, or they look at Biden. They need something to latch onto, because if they don't and everything's going fine, everything's going fine. All of a sudden, things become boring. It's like it's like with the later Dune books. Jensen, you'll like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where Leto II
Yeah.
does Leto's peace. Everybody's happy. There is world peace. Humans despise peace. They do not like it. They're stagnant.
Yeah.
They need some sort of conflict. It gives them purpose. It gives them a reason. It gives them a reason to do something. And we see that today. I mean, I know I'm quoting a science fiction or a plot from a science fiction book, but it's actually very true. I mean, we do need that conflict. And it's why we've split into such a degree of tribalism where they're the good guys or they're the bad guys, and you're either with me or against me. And that is a fundamental aspect of human nature.
Yeah.
By the way, that's my little rant.
I'm still offended.
I'm offended that you're offended.
Well,
I'm offended that you're offended that you're offended. Oh my god, I'm offended for you. I'm offended for you.
I understand that.
I'm offended that you're offended on my behalf.
Well, you should be offended on my behalf that I'm on your behalf that you're on my behalf.
I'm offended that you're offended.
No,
I'm
we did that already. No. You fucked it up. We did that already.
Yep. Sorry, dude. He can't help it. He's American.
It's
But
true.
unfortunately, I do need to finish here, gentlemen. Thank you very, very much for coming on.
I hope you're going to tell her.
No, I'm just going to hand her a tissue and leave her to it. Right, as I was saying, thank you very much for coming on.
Dribble.
Thank you very much, Doku. And again, thank you very much, all of you, for coming and seeing us and listening to our absolute drivel. We're good at it. Hopefully, you will be able to do something like this again at some point soon. But I would point out that on the 11th of next month, we'll be doing a wake for Dodge and Cabby. Anyone who wants to be here, please do.
Yes, please.
It's going to happen, mate. It's, you kind of have to for those two, don't you? So I will make sure that when it happens, I'll send you the link. All right, mate?
Definitely, thank you.
No worries. Anyway, thank you very much, people. I'll speak to you all later. Bye-bye.